All right. So a report came out that Tua Tagovailoa, Tagovailoa, if I can pronounce his name correctly, Tua came out and said that he had actually mulled retirement after the multiple concussions that he suffered this season. And for someone who has had, I've only had like one documented concussion in my life. I don't know about how many other ones I actually had. I played football a lot, so that's kind of why I had those concussions. But when it comes to the, Tua mulling it, I mean, at first, when I first saw the headline, I didn't know why. I thought it was just because maybe he didn't think he was good enough or something. But, then you look at it and you see, oh, it is because he was concerned for his health, for his head injuries, and I don't think nobody would have been shocked if he retired. It would have just yeah, that makes sense. He retired, he had these concussions, doesn't want to deal with it anymore. It would have made perfect sense for the guy to retire. Remember Patrick Willis? And then remember that whole situation with San Francisco, the linebacker, he retired and then his backup retired. And there was an article that came out about that because this guy, the backup, was supposed to be like the next guy in line. Obviously, it's a backup, but he was supposed to be like, oh, this guy, we're going to be fine. This guy's here. He's really good. We like him. And I guess there's an article that came out. He saw the retirement. He's just like, oh boy, this is awkward because I was also going to retire. And he did. Head injuries are a part of the game, unfortunately. Concussions are a part of the game. I know the NFL is doing everything they can to try and minimize their concussions, but my thing with concussions is like it's you sign up for it. I'm not saying that you sign up to get a concussion, but you're playing football. I think at this point, it depends on the position that you play, but for a lot of people, leaving the NFL without a concussion is a blessing. Just say I played 15 years. No, I didn't have any documented concussions or anything. Perfect. Nowadays, it's in my opinion, I know that the stats may say that it's dropped. I don't know what the stats say personally, but I think if I remember correctly, they may see a downward trend to trying to limit this. But when you have guys that are getting faster and faster every year when they play, and you have guys that are getting stronger and stronger along with the speed, avoiding concussions is so hard. Like, it's just there's bang bang plays, there's boom, there's plays that you're just not able to stop and react to. It just happens. So it's tough. That's why with Tua saying that he was mulling retirement, I, I can't blame the guy. I mean, one, he should have never played in that game against Cincinnati. Like those that remember that game, he had a concussion the week before, goes back in. You guys ever heard of second impact syndrome? It's a real thing. When I got my concussion in high school, I felt fine. So how I got my concussion, I don't like to go too deep into this, but we were playing against this team. All I remember, here's what all I remember. I scored, and then we scored a couple more ties. Like the game went back and forth for the first six possessions. We were just going back and forth, touchdown for touchdown. Then they took over. Whatever. It's also when I was taken out of the game. Fun fact. That's when we stopped scoring when I was taken out of the game. So what does that say? Anyways, when it comes to me, all I remember is that I scored, we scored a couple more times, and the next thing you know, I'm on the bench. I have no idea how I got there or anything. And it was really scary. And so at the time, my trainer's name is Christina. I was like, "Where's my helmet? Where's my pads? Christina, Christina." I was looking around for him. And she's like, "Ryan, sit down. You have a concussion. You're not going back in." I go, "No, no, no. I feel fine. I feel great. I'm going to go back in." She goes, "No, you have a concussion. You are not going back in the game." Sure enough, I wanted to go back in. My dad from the stands called me over, waved me over, and said, "You're going back in. Or sorry, you're not going back in. Either you sit your butt on the bench or I'm taking you home." I sat down on that bench. And the next week, I thought I could go. I did not play. I was thinking, yeah, I feel perfectly fine. No headaches, no throwing up, nothing at all, nothing at all. Then I went and saw a neurologist, and they said, you're out for a week. You cannot play. And I didn't play. And unfortunately, what was kind of scary was that the guy that was in my position that next game got a concussion. Like, how wild is that? Because if I would have been me, who knows where I would have been. And I remember when I saw Tua hit his head on the ground, the second concussion, and I saw his hands make them like the kind of like the fingers and the hands kind of curl up and stuff. I knew the moment I saw that, I was like, he's got another concussion, and this time it's much worse because it's a brain. Guys, you have to let it heal. It's not a shoulder or a leg, it's your brain. You bruised your brain. And there's different levels of a concussion and the severity of it. The severity of it determines how long you can recover from it. Even a mild one, you still have to have at least a week of recovery. And that example was clear as day why with Tua. And I like Tua. I do. I like the fact that the Dolphins gave him a shot. And I said this before. I said if Tua did not perform this year, they were going to have to move on. The games that he played, they had the most success in the season. It's just how it works. So Tua retiring possibly would not have shocked me. And said, you know what? It's for his health. It makes sense. So I'm happy to see that he's still going to be sticking around. I mean, I'm pretty sure all these random reports about the Dolphins moving on with Tua, they're staying with Tua. It's honestly kind of ridiculous at this point. I mean, if they stick with him, they should. He played great this past year with his offense, so we'll see what happens. But yeah, just concussions are pretty wild stuff, man. If you got it, you got to take them seriously at the end of the day. That's all I'm saying.